The Trump administration has been deporting many students who were seen to be, well, they claim, a threat to national security. But we do know that what these students have in common when their visas get revoked is that they're largely critical of Israel. State Department's basically saying, look, they oppose our national interests, our foreign policy interests, so deportation. From this, there has been many other moves. That is, the Trump administration has stripped or threatened to strip Harvard of their tax-exempt status and threatened to cut federal funding to these universities that are woke, and thus they will go broke. And now we have this story. Over the past several days, there has been a series of violent riots, I guess you can call it. The other day, we saw the news that Antifa had amassed at University of Washington and set fire on the campus in numerous locations, nearly setting fire to the building. But, let's be fair, the building is brick and steel, so probably wouldn't go up. But hey, big fires being set, completely unacceptable. Riley Gaines said that they were throwing human feces at a Turning Point event at University of Washington. She's been attacked several times. And then we had a couple journalists on the ground, one for the Post-Millennial, actually attacked and robbed, it would seem, by Antifa. There's a video of these Antifa dudes getting blasted with mace in the face. From this, the Trump administration has put University of Washington under review, meaning they may get stripped of federal funding or any other kind of tax benefits, much the same as Harvard. Trump is not messing around. Now, we're not quite at the point where we're seeing the feds crack down on Antifa, these far-left agitators, and it is largely due, in my opinion, to the intentionally, let's just call it, they obfuscate their intentions, who they are. This is called black bloc tactics. Makes it very difficult for any group of law enforcement to single out individuals and go after groups. That being said, UW suffered $1 million in damages when they allowed these far-left extremists to occupy a new building. And it's, as I said yesterday, my friends, the Trump administration should not be allowing federal funds to go to a university. And these investors that have put money into this building should pull their donations if these universities will allow the far left to go in and ransack and set fire to these institutions. Why should anybody be giving money to people if they're going to allow the far left to just rip it to shreds and destroy it? So we got a lot to break down here. Of course, Bill Ackman has come out and said Donald Trump is correct. Target the universities, take their tax-exempt status. Some have been saying for years now to seize the endowments, as it were. I don't know if we make it to that point, my friends, but let's go through the news. And then in just about 30 or so minutes, we'll be joined by one of the journalists that was on the ground and was attacked by Antifa to explain to us what's been going on with these events, why these lunatics are trying to take over these buildings. Because I tell you this, when I see these leftists protesting United Healthcare, I get it. I think Luigi Mangione was a crazy person, and what he did was ineffective, morally wrong. But what was the point? It solved nothing. But at least I can understand the leftists that are holding up signs angry with a broken healthcare system. Hey, I get that. These Antifa people? Well, I get it. They're protesting Israel by setting dumpster fires at a university. Not quite sure how any of these things are related. Yeah. Don't know how they're solving anything. They're not. They're nuts. So we're going to get into all that. Before we do, my friends, shout out to Steven Crowder and the Mug Club for shouting us out. As always, greatly appreciated. We support the support from Steven Crowder and his team and all of the Mug Club viewers for coming and watching this noon live hour. I am your host, Tim Pool. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast, but don't forget to also hit up castbrew.com. We got coffee, the best coffee. Everyone agrees. At least that's what I've been told. Appalachian Nights is my personal favorite. We've got ground and whole bean. If you would like a low acidity blend, Ian's Graphene Dream is a great choice. People are raving about it. But we've got a bunch of others. We've got medium roast. We've got decaf, Sleepy Joe, perhaps. I recommend you get Sleepy Joe as a gift for anybody who loves Joe Biden. Maybe you've got a liberal end. You can say, here, I got you some decaf coffee, Sleepy Joe. But don't forget to also smash that like button, share the show with everyone you know. And let's jump into this news story right here from Fox News. First, We got to talk about what the damage is and what's going on and why Trump is going after these universities. Now, the news, of course, is that the Trump administration is targeting the University of Washington for review after militants took over an engineering building and started fires. Quote, no institution that tolerates violence, harassment, or the open intimidation of Jewish students should expect to receive billions in taxpayer support. The first thing I'm going to say is I cringe at the motivation. I really do. Are you kidding me, Trump? Come on. We had this problem for years, and y'all could have invoked the Insurrection Act. And let me just give the distinction between the word insurrection, the left. Man, these people are very literal people. It's like they can't understand the meanings of words. The Insurrection Act says that if law is not being upheld in a jurisdiction, Trump can call in the National Guard to enforce the law. Now, any president could, not just Trump. Right now it's Trump. Trump could have done this in 2020. He did not. Perhaps the strategy was let the far left live as they want, and maybe they'll vote for him. I don't know. They burned down police stations, firebombed federal buildings, throwing explosives at them for in the Pacific Northwest over 100 days. Trump could have done something about it then. He didn't. What's the big reason they're doing it now? Well, the kids, I shouldn't say kids, but the students, they're adults, who are getting their visas revoked, critical of Israel. Donald Trump says, we're going to suspend funding because of anti-Semitism. Come on, man. Well, I don't understand why you're making it so overt. Just go after Antifa and we'll all be satisfied. But it really does seem that the only reason these moves are being made against these universities is because this time the protest isn't about Black Lives Matter. It's about Israel. Now, I do think a large portion of this is related to U.S. foreign policy, protecting the Suez Canal. Trump wants the Panama Canal. He wants Greenland for the Northwest Passage, and he wants the Suez. But this ain't doing much to shut down any conspiracy theories. But that being said, let's take a look at the news here. We got this from Fox News. Riley Gaines says literal human feces thrown in protest of Turning Point USA at University of Washington. Approximately 150 people showed up to protest Gaines and Olivia Krolczyk speaking out against biological men competing in women's sports. The event was titled "The Fight is Far From Over," taking place Tuesday evening in the university's Ethnic Cultural Theater, led by Riley Gaines and Olivia Krolczyk. It was a public event open to anyone with a valid photo ID. Gaines initially wrote on X that protesters at UW were chanting "God is trans," before updating her post with "The protesters just threw feces at the TPUSA students at check-in, literal human feces." Okay, local media outlets reported that approximately 150 people were near the building protesting the speech. Many could be seen in social media videos waving trans flags and holding signs, some vulgar, expressing opposition to Gaines and Krolczyk. We have this story from the Post-Millennial, which elaborates a bit. Trantifa agitators target elderly, throw feces, harass attendees in protest of Riley Gaines' TPUSA event at the University of Washington. "I bet your old ass blood is beautiful on the concrete," one of them said. And they also yelled other expletives. I will also stress, it would seem that the Trump administration is going after UW not because of this particular protest, despite the fact it's happening around the exact same time. Now, they go to mention much of what we already know. Antifa and trans activists mobilized to protest TPUSA. But the big story that has resulted in the Trump admin taking action is more to do with the anti-Israel protests. Antifa caused over $1 million in damage to University of Washington during Gaza protests, the Post-Millennial reports. Antifa militants and anti-Israel radicals caused over $1 million in damage to a brand new engineering building at the University of Washington during a violent occupation Monday night. Tuesday morning, a professor took Como News through the interdisciplinary engineering building and showed that doors were pulled off hinges. Others were glued shut, walls were vandalized, windows were smashed, and machine manufacturing tools worth thousands of dollars were destroyed. I guess Antifa are Luddites as well. Spokesman for the University of Washington told the Ari Hoffman show on talk radio, quote, "I have learned that this is a very early estimate of damage to some equipment in one room. We don't have an estimate of the rest of the building. That means it's going to be in excess of $1 million. It's going to be a lot more." The damage was so extensive that the spokesman told Hoffman At least 24 classes are being moved to other locations while the building remains closed for the rest of the week. These impact the majority of departments in the College of Engineering and primarily undergraduate education. Classes include Introduction to Biomechanics and Core Principles of Human Design-Centered Engineering. Zero sympathy. I have zero sympathy for these schools, for these police, for these people. Why would any student apply to go to this university? You know that for years this has been going on. My friends, it's been 5 years since the George Floyd riots. That means there were 13-year-olds who, as they were going through high school, as they were preparing to apply for colleges, didn't do the research or intentionally chose to go to these psychotic crackpot universities. I don't care. No sympathy. I say Trump should strip these universities of every single thing that they get from the federal government. Why? Why should the taxpayer fund these lunatics? Jonathan Cho says Monday night, Antifa and pro-Hamas activists rampaged inside the University of Washington's interdisciplinary engineering building. Look at this. They smashed, what is this, a 3D printer of something? What is that? Not the kind of evidence of showing their tactics. It was methodical and planned well in advance. I'm just going to go ahead and lean on, it was an insurance scam. There you go. Take out a hefty insurance policy. Some guy puts on a mask, goes in, looks around, smashes up the tools, and then says, oh no, it's ruined. I mean, I'm kidding, but at this point, I don't know why we give any of these people the benefit of any of the doubt. Some sources speculated the building could be closed for the rest of the year. We got more photos happening now. The University of Washington, Seattle has literally turned into a dumpster fire. School leaders are allowing Antifa and pro-Hamas activists to dictate the terms. The militants destroyed expensive machinery and trashed offices. The $100 million building was recently completed, thanks in part to a $10 million donation from Boeing. The violent radicals targeted the building to demand the university cut ties with the aerospace company because it does business with Israel. You know, only a small handful of police could have stopped all of this. They choose not to. The question is why? And more importantly, why should we pay for it? According to the King County Prosecutor's Office, 31 activists were arrested by police during the violent occupation. Approximately half of them were students at the university. So the other half weren't? On Monday night, multiple fires were set by the radicals dressed in black bloc and wrapped in keffiyehs who barricaded the doors and occupied the building. Activists blocked the street with bike racks and dumpsters before setting them on fire. University police called in the Seattle Police Department and the Washington State Patrol to help end the occupation and arrest the radicals. Student group Super UW organized the action and had been suspended for its role in causing over $50,000 in damage to the Husky Union building last year during a similar action. Pro-Hamas and Antifa activists have been allowed to control parts of the campus since October 7th, 2023, since the October terror attacks in Israel. In the spring of 24, agitators occupied the quad and set up an encampment which remained in place for 3 weeks. Jewish students were blocked from traversing the campus, and buildings were regularly vandalized with anti-Semitic graffiti. Crews sent to clean up the mess had their vehicles and equipment damaged by the activists. UW President Anna Marie Cause issued a statement condemning Monday night's violence and anti-Semitism, but many felt it was too little too late after more than a year of allowing activists to have run the campus. Now, let me say this about Antifa. Why we call them Antifa? They fly the Antifa flag. These are similar people that many have already known. You've got, of course, Trantifa, the transgender Antifa. They literally call themselves Trantifa. However, that being said, it is apparent to me, and I think to most people, the Trump admin is only moving in now because Antifa has encroached upon Israel. I mean, there's no other real explanation. They're not announcing any action. I mean, what if the quote was, "We will not allow institution to tolerate violence, harassment, open intimidation of Jewish students, and individuals advocating for women's rights." Riley Gaines. That wasn't included in their statement. That being said, again, Antifa embodies whatever leftist cause they want at the time. This is what Antifa does. Be it BLM, whether it's class, race, Israel, whatever. They have no unifying ideology behind them other than whatever the left says goes. the important thing to draw a distinction to. Black bloc is the tactic. That's when people dress up in all black so that police can't identify them. In this instance, the individuals largely involved are the same people identified at other protests, Antifa. They literally just say Israel is a fascist state, Trump is a fascist, so they join the protests and they get violent. Trump now, of course, is only reacting to the intimidation of Jewish students. I think it's bad. I don't appreciate any of these far leftists going around doing any of this dumb garbage, smashing up a building for whatever the cause may be. I just wish the Trump administration would have taken it seriously 5 years ago. And I will stress again, I have zero sympathy for any student who now can't go to school because you knew the whole time your university allows and tolerates this. Now, by all means, no, they arrested these people. Oh, please. After the fact, they could have stopped these people from going in the building. They could have done what they needed to do to save the equipment from being destroyed. So when your university is damaged, you can't go to school. Guess what? The school let it happen. This on Tuesday, several agencies in the Trump admin announced a review of the incidents of anti-Semitic violence at the University of Washington and its affiliates. The announcement came after Antifa and pro-Hamas rioters took over this building this weekend. So they say this is DOE, HHS, and the GSA, the U.S. General Services Administration. Administrators from the University of Washington called in law enforcement to quell the disturbance and remove the occupiers, but the damage had already been done by the time the building was cleared. Over 30 activists arrested. And indeed, my friends, it was an inside job. Take a look at this from the Post-Millennial. King County Public Defender among 30 arrested after Antifa occupation of University of Washington building. We are working with law enforcement and through our own disciplinary process to ensure those responsible face appropriate consequences for their actions. A King County Public Defender. This is a lawless state. I think Trump should actually go after the state as a whole and strip them of tax benefits and federal funding until they actually start enforcing the law. They say on Monday, authorities arrested more than 30 individuals who seized and occupied the interdisciplinary engineering building at the University of Washington to protest Israel and its war against Hamas terrorists. Among those arrested was a King County public defender and several affiliates of the left-wing extremist group Antifa. All of them were booked into local jails on criminal trespassing charges with a bail set at $1,000. It's unclear if the apprehended individuals were students and or outside agitators. The King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office said in a statement that more than 24 protesters have been charged with gross misdemeanor offenses, and several of them have had initial court appearances. The majority of the protesters have already been released from custody, jail records show. They're going to mention the name of many of these individuals. Hence, like I said, Andy Ngo, the Post-Millennial have largely tracked many of these individuals. They know who many of them are. They've seen these names pop up. They say Sam Suoka, one of the arrested individuals, has been identified as a King County public defender who has represented criminal anti-Israeli protesters in the past. The KC Public Defender's Office declined to comment. So I'll just say this. Honest question. To those that angry with Israel, what does smashing up biomechanical tools in a university do to help you accomplish your goals? I'll wait, because the answer is there is nothing. It doesn't. Now, they might say it generates awareness or something. Yeah, no, there's better ways of raising awareness, like literally standing in the middle of the street. And I'm not kidding. If you block traffic, everybody hears about it because they want to know why traffic is blocked. Going into a university building and smashing up a tool no one has heard of, and only the specialists even know what it is, no one's going to hear about that. That's not going to generate attention. All you're doing is destroying a mechanical tool that students need to use to make stuff. What's the point? These people are unhinged, and what they do is insane. Now, we have this tweet from Riley Gaines. Quote, I don't want to quote this, okay? These people are just calling for the death of elderly people who went to this event. But we do have this video that I think you should see. This is from Katie Davis Court. Cam Higbee and I were just chased by the Antifa militants targeting elderly people after they identified us as reporters. Cam was forced to deploy mace in an act of self-defense. Antifa robbed him of his GoPro. The reporting, as I understand it, is that the police are investigating this as a robbery. Here's the video.
Scared? Why are you scared? Uh-oh. I'm just walking. Stop! Don't touch me. You guys liked it. Thank you. Dude, run! 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 Mace! Run! Scared.
Okay. They got maced. And I would say of these far left out of, like, you know, we'll be talking to Cam in just a minute. But my attitude largely with this is it's three guys. It's actually, I think it's two guys and a woman. And Cam and I want to say this, Katie and Cam, they did the right thing. Yeah, I know. I ain't afraid of no lunatic Antifa running up to you and wiggling their hands in your face. Been there, done that. But the fight you win is the fight you avoid. And anyone of discipline understands this. We've all seen the videos of, what was that dude's name? What do they call him? Rufio? Where he winds up the fist and then clocks the Antifa guy. He went to jail for that. I'm pretty sure he went to jail for that. Even these systems are corrupt. They're going to defend the Antifa people. The best thing you can do is get out, film, save your footage, and live to report another day. That being said, I totally understand why people are like, bro, if you charge at me, you will regret it. I went on Tucker Carlson a few years ago, having experienced something very similar. And I would say I probably should have just backed off. But the guy got in my face and started fake swinging at me just like they were doing. It's what they do. They're trying to get a rise out of you. They're trying to instigate a fight where they can say that you attacked them. But you're running full speed at people, okay? That's why they got maced. And the police are investigating them as the criminals. Now, here's where it gets interesting in the bigger picture. You may have seen the story from the past week. Trump says he will remove Harvard's tax-exempt status. Trump said he will revoke Harvard's tax-exempt status. We're going to be taking away that status. It's what they deserve. The university is already in a legal battle with Trump admin over freezing $2.2 billion in federal grants. On April 15th, he said, perhaps Harvard should lose its tax-exempt status and be taxed as a political entity if it keeps pushing political, ideological, and terrorist-inspired supporting sickness. Harvard, the nation's oldest and wealthiest university, said its revocation of its tax-exempt status would be unlawful and unprecedented. I don't care. Do it, Trump. We're not talking about Donald Trump arresting an American citizen and deporting him. We are talking about a multi-billion-dollar institution trying to play dirty games politically and then complaining when Trump says, we ain't playing that game. So do it. Take their tax-exempt status. We got more. This from just the other day. The Trump administration to halt new research grants for Harvard as battle over political ideology and academic freedom flares. Indeed. Also, you can see this as an aside, breaking news, waiting for the Pope. No smoke yet. Donald Trump is going after Harvard. Unfortunately, I would say, it's for one reason. Israel. But I will say this. Okay, I'll take it. The universities are corrupt. They are bad, and they should not be tax exempt, and they should not get federal funds. It is unfortunate, in my opinion, that the Trump administration didn't do anything the first time around, and they're only making moves now because of anti-Israel protests. But I don't care. I do not care. I'll put it this way. There's an interesting question around the ends justifying the means. And of course, the ends do not justify the means because you will never meet the ends. That's the important understanding. What that means to me, because there's a bunch of ways to interpret it. We should not use illegal or unethical means to solve a problem, because then you just create a system of unethical, unjust means. In this regard, some may say Trump should not be stopping anti-Israel protests. Well, hold on. This is more about the damage to the buildings. So my attitude is this. People should be allowed to protest Israel on these university campuses. Problem, when these students, and some not even students, were attacking Jewish students, threatening employees, smashing out windows, that's where they crossed the line. The motivation for the Trump admin is this was anti-Semitic. That's a stupid motivation, but they are still using just means to stop criminal offenders. If the only thing we saw was a bunch of hippy-dippy leftists linking arms, sitting in the grass, singing songs, and Trump said, we won't tolerate this, I'd have a problem with it. So I don't like Trump's motivation, but the means are just. These people are violent, they're destroying property, and they should be arrested. Trump should be stripping them of their tax-exempt status and their federal funding because of the violence. That's already illegal, but his motivation is stupid. Bill Ackman chimed in, and he says Trump is doing precisely the right thing as admin freezes billions of dollars for Harvard. Billionaire investor Bill Ackman on Tuesday said Harvard University, one of the nation's oldest and wealthiest, should not be entitled to taxpayer funds when the school wastes money on what he calls administrative bloat. Ackman, who earned undergraduate and business degrees from Harvard more than 3 decades ago, was speaking hours after the Trump admin said it was freezing future grants to Harvard. I say good. I do want to wrap this segment, though, with a little bit of information we talked about just yesterday. Semaphores story. Trump's falling in the polls. Why aren't Democrats benefiting? I'll just answer that for you. It's because they're an insane bunch of people. They represent no ideology. They have no solutions to any problems. And for this, Trump is polling better, despite the hit pieces. And then we have this, a Canadian poll, but I think still exemplifies a lot of the problem. They asked, top issue by generation for the Canadian vote, Gen Z, Millennials, Gen X, and Boomers. Boomers' biggest issue, dealing with Donald Trump, 50%. Gen Z and Millennials, 27 and 28. The biggest issue, of course, for Gen Z, reducing your cost of living. And Millennials, 50%, reducing the cost of living. Incredible. We see this in the United States. It's an unhinged bunch. The left is a coalition of lunatics and insane people. There is a problem. The economy is bad. The solution? Get rid of Trump. That's not a solution. That's just saying I don't like Trump. What's your proposal after Trump is gone? Joe Biden was the answer to that question. Nothing. The far left, the liberals, largely the boomers, hated Trump. And so they said, we want to vote him out. We want to vote for Biden. They did. But Biden had no plan. Biden's campaign was Orange Man bad. And so when he got in, what did we get? Nothing. Chaos, nonsense, mumbling gibberish from a man who is incapable of doing the job. And that's where we are today. The Trump administration and the right largely represents an attempt at a coherent and cohesive solution-based political structure. That is, if you're concerned about Israel, well, the anti-interventionist right is doing a way better job of things. A lot of people don't like Dave Smith, but Dave Smith's particularly effective in asking questions about foreign policy and our involvement in these incidents. Much respect. The far left is smashing windows, completely unrelated to anything having to do with this conflict. For what point? No idea. Well, my friends, I'm going to wrap up this portion of the show here. Make sure you smash that like button, share the show with everyone you know. Follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. Thank you all for hanging out, and we will see you all in the next segment.